I'm Anastasia. I work at Lighthouse, which is an open metaverse navigation engine. I believe the only metaverse navigation engine. So what I was going to do is I was going to get up here and basically deliver the same talk that I gave to a gathering in Austin. It was about my graduate research, which was concerned with isolating the variables that produce surveillance capitalism in order to not reproduce the same conditions in crypto and the metaverse. There were so many memes, there were big words, it went over pretty well. But then I thought, no. Because I have this extraordinary opportunity to enjoy a captive audience full of investors, founders, and operators with the ability to allocate human and financial capital towards the technologies they believe in. So don't I have something more to say to you all than to tell you what you already know? That our digital telemetry is being exploited and that privacy is a public good? What if, and hear me out, what if I challenged you all instead to help me find Web3's soul? And no, not the soul-bound soul of Vitalik's flashy, if ill-conceived meditation on decentralized dystopia. What I mean by our soul is, what is our purpose here? What is the shared project of everyone in this room? What are we all working towards? Based on the talk so far, it sounds to me like our shared project has to do with the disillusionment about the state of affairs in consumer technology over the past 20 years. We're dissatisfied with the predations of the platform economy, with gamified outrage and algorithmically rewarded hype, with the fracture of trust in democratic institutions and the disillusion of consensus around any semblance of common truth. So it sounds to me like our shared project might be securing a symbiotic version of technological progress that enriches human dignity rather than subverting it. But if that's our shared project, then why do we keep running into coordination failures in its pursuit? The problem, I surmise, is that we technologists fail to take ourselves seriously. No, really, we build products that run human experiments at scale, but we don't have any formal training in design ethics, public choice, or behavioral economics. No standards by which to define the safety requirements of the environments that we build, and no incentives to reward long-term societal maxima over short-term user acquisition. And I'm not even talking about trust and safety in the ways that we usually talk about, which is like content moderation, right? Because I'm not going to touch that lightning rod topic with a 10-foot pole in a room full of people that care about censorship resistance. I'm talking about structural safety. I'm talking about how do we mature our industry to the same level as other highly respected professions that require proven expertise and training in the ethical dimensions of their work. Those are professions such as aviation, civil engineering, law, medicine, where job performance is not about just shipping cool things faster than the other guy, but where the quality and safety are paramount. And where engineers don't get to keep their jobs if they build things that produce harmful outcomes. Those are professions that represent essential functions of civil society. We devolve into a Hobbesian hellscape of life that is nasty, brutish, and short without trained architects, lawyers, and doctors because society depends on those professions. But society depends on our profession no less, right? Because technology touches every aspect of modern life. You probably booked your travel here online. You've been on Telegram to figure out your side events. So you're probably Zooming in your colleagues for the hackathon. So safe to say that technology is critical infrastructure and arguably the greatest attack surface area for modern warfare, which is information warfare. And yet, software engineering somehow gets a pass. There's no code of ethics. There's no standards, no adults in the room. Structural safety and professional ethics are just not part of the software engineering profession in the way that it is in other serious disciplines. For example, if you build the Golden Gate Bridge faster than someone else, but it crumbles in the bay, do you still have an engineering career? But we do build digital environments that take shortcuts with user privacy and safety in favor of convenience, or that intentionally navigate their attention toward the most outrageous content, or mislead them with cookie pop-ups that engage dark pattern design to conceal their optionality. We still fail to treat cyberspace as critical infrastructure, as a real, tangible environment that has real, tangible impact on human lives. Which doesn't make sense to me at all, especially as we merge our digital architectures with the physical world, especially when we talk about persistent, immersive environments, the metaverse, augmented reality. And sure, if a plane falls out of a sky or if a building crumbles, people might die, so it stands to reason that those engineering professions have serious standards, but ours does not, because no one dies from the internet, right? But is that really still true after Frances Haugen's revelations? After Myanmar? After the Capitol riot? So when will our mental models for taking the internet seriously catch up with reality? I see 3 ways that our industry falls short of responsible adulthood, and some thought starters to offer. The first is that we make doing the right thing too expensive. We priced out options that favor long-term human outcomes over the more expedient short-term go-to-market considerations. And this is a problem of incentive structure in venture capital. It's not patient capital. You're making risky bets expecting that 99% of those will fail, but one will go to the moon and carry the rest of the portfolio. And I'm not making a normative statement here. I don't mean to admonish you, please don't take it as admonishment. It's just an objective observation that risky capital imposes growth obligations. And those obligations mean that founders have to make trade-offs that optimize for user growth over some other metrics that would optimize for what's good for society in the long run, or else your competitor wins. What this is a classic collective action problem. In optimizing for growth over addressing existential risks of exponential technology, we create a perverse incentive for companies to effectively become bad actors in a giant prisoner's dilemma. The only way out is through coordination among all of us. We need to uphold a stable Nash equilibrium where we can communicate with the other prisoners to do the right thing and where no one can cheat in a game theoretic race to the worst possible outcome for the commons. The only way out is to make the ethical choice the rational one as well, and that's only done through collective coordination. No one can cheat, not a single company. If we don't like antisocial outcomes, then we need to make tech wisdom affordable. We can't keep pricing out doing the right thing. Capital has to figure out a way to coordinate across the industry to fund public goods like privacy, internalize externalities, and then incentivize ethical choices. The second, lest we all think we're just blaming VCs who invited me here, the second is that we don't teach engineers how to do the right thing. I think we do the engineering profession a great disservice in not including things like design ethics, philosophy, virtue ethics, behavioral economics, Ronald Coase's theory of the firm in the course of a software education. We don't train builders the discipline of mind to evaluate trade-offs. There's an interesting quote that I like by a technologist named Malik. In tech, we don't understand the emotional aspect of our work, just as we don't understand the moral imperative or social consequences of what we do. It is not that all players are bad. It is just not part of the thinking process the way that, say, minimum viable product or growth hacking are. Technologists are trained to think optimistically and efficiently. How can I design the fastest possible critical path to product market fit? So predictably, the benefits accrue to a minority, the ideal customer for whom the product is designed, while externalities and unintended consequences are socialized and dispersed beyond the product's intended scope, accumulating diffuse societal burdens. So technologists must learn to think defensively. We must learn to ask, how might this technology be used for purposes outside my intended outcomes? To whom do costs accrue, and can these costs be internalized? These questions require an education, and academia isn't going to do it, so it falls to us to make expectations of structural integrity and safety in software table stakes in our field. That means that if you lead a team, then teach your team to think like an economist. Ask them to write product requirements documents that enumerate externalities for every use case. Put ethics on your onboarding curriculum and then run performance evaluations that reflect these in your culture code. And if you're an investor, then you know that part of the work is getting your portfolio companies access to the knowledge, networks, and resources that they need to succeed. So incentivize the right choices by paying as much attention to building the capacity to understand aggregate societal trade-offs as you pay to the cap table. And the third is that we don't know what the right thing is. We don't attempt to self-regulate and align on standards for what structural integrity in technology even looks like. And I think in large part that's because we brush off tech ethics as the indulgent, idealistic navel-gazing of the social impact-minded. It's cute, but it doesn't work. Not in the real world. Or does it? You don't get to practice medicine without solid training in medical ethics, and the legal profession likewise has a strict ethical code that attorneys are bound to uphold, or they'll get disbarred. And of course, every engineering profession other than software engineering maintains safety standards. But in software, we make safety the responsibility of normies because we refuse to take our profession seriously. Aerospace engineers don't expect you to verify the safety standards of aircraft before you bought your ticket to Paris, and we couldn't rent this space if the building had faulty wiring. But when we build digital spaces, we pass off all these decisions that should be the purview of professionals onto unsuspecting end users. And we do this under the guise of consumer choice. This is dishonest, and it's embarrassing, and it's unserious. Do we want to wait until the next scandal happens and Washington and EU regulators pass an ill-advised law that just patches over the accumulating technical and ethical debt, and we keep kicking the same can down the road? Or don't we already know that the most powerful tool that we have in improving the standards of tech are the people building the tech itself? And we won't be the only industry that self-regulates. We have the Better Business Bureau, the American Bar Association, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and I haven't even talked about Europe. So I just think tech ethics should be a rigorous and respected area of the work we all do, just as it is in other serious professions. Data sovereignty has become something of a battle cry in crypto. So it seems reasonable for me to expect that we, the founders, operators, investors, and engineers at the bleeding edge of tech should want to ensure we don't recreate the same structures that we grew weary of the last time around, and that inspired this entire crypto movement in the first place. We're allowing human agency to become a tragedy of the commons because we are refusing to deal with privacy, identity, and consent as collective action problems, not product categories. So that's why I didn't talk to you about my graduate thesis, which you can read on my mirror anyway, and why I'm instead urging you to set an ethical baseline and then cooperate obsessively to uphold it, and why I'm calling on you to accept the full weight of this responsibility. Because for 11 years, we've been saying that software is eating the world. Well, we've really eaten our fill, and we're no longer a growing boy. The tech industry has grown up, and we should act like a grown-up industry, with grown-up standards, a moral compass that's well attuned to the responsibility that we hold in our hands, and a code of ethics that commands industry respect, something engineers aspire to rather than roll their eyes at. And it falls to everyone in this room to accept your role in this shared project. It's a daring, once-in-a-generation opportunity at a do-over to build a future we don't merely have to live in, but actually want to live in, really be in it. We all have work to do to find Web3's soul. So make tech wisdom affordable, make it the rational choice, use your network influence, teach and lead. Because I have no idea what we're all doing here if we aren't all obsessively cooperating to make things better this time around. Thanks.